Assalamu alaikum everyone, this is Sam. Welcome back to another video with me here at Sam of Somalia. In some of my videos I mentioned some places in Somalia, and some people have written to me and said, you know, where are these places? Are Mogadishu and Hargeisa the same? Are Hamar and Mogadishu the same? And where are all these places? What is Somaliland? What is Puntland? And what is Somalia? And then why are there loads of Somalis living like in the Horn of Africa but not in Somalia? So what I thought would be really nice to do in this video would just be have a little tour of the Somali lands. And the reason why I use that language is because in this video I'm kind of talking about the areas where the Somalis live, like the lands in which, you know, this kind of idea of a greater Somalia. Because here at this channel, I mean, I don't, to be quite frank with you, I don't really care about any nationalistic ideas of Somalia or Somaliland. What I more care about is serving the Somali people and you know, educating people about the cultures and the shared language and religion and identity of the Somali people who happen to live, you know, outside of, you know, what has been mapped out as Somalia and as Somaliland and these other areas. So what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to bring you into my computer and we're going to have a little tour just of Somalia. We're going to have a look at where all these main cities are, how close they are to each other, and what places actually sort of overlap into what has been in the modern day labelled as Ethiopian lands and Kenyan lands and as Djibouti and other areas of the Horn of Africa. So that's what I've got coming up for you guys. So here we are, guys, in my computer, and I'm just going to put my little writer pen thing on so you can see it. Basically, I've got two maps up here for you. So we've kind of got over here, this is kind of the map that I was telling you guys about, this idea of like a greater Somalia. And that's kind of the areas where, you know, Somali people live. But obviously that is quite different to what is, you know, to today known as Somalia. So, I mean, if we kind of drew something like that, what is on this side has ended up as like modern day Somalia, but still we have Somalis that live over in this area, and this whole area over here, the part that overlaps with modern day Ethiopia, is an area that's known as Ogadennia. You know, if you've ever heard of Ogadennia, then that's the bit that falls into here. And then obviously over here you can kind of see those labels and stuff as well. Like we have this whole bit, which is this grey bit labelled as Ogadennia. But the people in there speak Somali, they're ethnically Somali, and as far as I know are Muslims like the rest of the Somali people. So that's the area which you might have heard of as being Ogadennia, which now falls inside of Ethiopia. There's a whole history behind why they decided to sort of chop up the land like that, because it doesn't really even make sense, does it? I mean, you'd have thought just kind of naturally the way populations would spread, you would think that it would just be sort of a more you know, like blanket movement of the Somali people inland, which would have included this bit, but that's not obviously what is reflected in the countries that exist now. Last week, obviously, I did a video about my brother-in-law's restaurant, which is in Hargeisa. So Hargeisa is right up the top here. You can't quite see it, but I know that's where Hargeisa is. So Hargeisa is the capital of what people who live there know as Somaliland, and it is, as far as I know, entirely self-governing, and the majority of the people who live there do want it to be recognised as a separate state to the rest of Somalia. But it's not internationally recognised as such at the moment. There are lots of videos about kind of the history of that, and but as far as I know, they do have their own education system, their own policing system, and things like that in Somaliland. So just to have a look at some of the areas, I mean, there's up here there's this area Sanag as well, and obviously that's so what is referred to as Somaliland is you know, the majority of the north coast, even, which is obviously shared with Yemen, is obviously across the border from Yemen. That bit up there is Yemen. So we come around, and then this area in the purple, that's what's known as Puntland. That's what's known as Puntland over here. And there, you know, like I think Bosaso is in there as well. It's quite a famous city up on the north coast called Bosaso. I think that falls inside of Puntland as well. And so sometimes there are these on the map. There are these terms like Waqooyi, that just means north. Waqooyi means north, Galbeed means west, and Bari means east. So when you see these terms, then they're not necessarily places, but they're kind of just telling you that that's east and west, and then obviously in the south down here there should be the word Konfor or Konfir, depending on what your dialect is. One of them in the north, I think they say Konfor, in the south they say Konfir, but Konfir means the south. So that's what's down here. So we talked about Hargeisa, so that's where my brother-in-law's restaurant would be. And then around here, obviously, enormous coastline. Obviously, Somalia is well known for having the longest coastline in the whole of Africa, and it should be pointed out that is mainland Africa. Like Madagascar does have a longer coastline, but to be honest, I don't really think that counts. I mean, Madagascar is just an island, so yeah. But in terms of like mainland Africa, Somalia has the longest coastline, and I think quite comfortably. So yeah, we come all the way down, and then this is where Mogadishu is. This is where Mogadishu. In one of my videos, I referred to it as Hamar. And I think that's just what locals of Mogadishu call it. The people I've spoken to about Mogadishu are from Hamar. So yeah, so that's just why I referred to it as Hamar. But that's where Mogadishu is. So it's on the coast, and it's further down here in the south. And then obviously like this map doesn't show this one over here, but this one over here does show that actually the Somali people do kind of actually flood over into Kenya a little bit as well. I mean, I guess the Kenyan border sort of goes through there. So there are a lot of Somali people that actually are ethnically Somalis, as I say, just the way that I described the people who live in Ogadenia. Somalis who are, ethnically Somali and share cultural ties and, and ties, religious ties and stuff with the Somali people. Likewise is the same in Kenya. Like the Somali people go all the way down into Kenya as well. And, I mean, some maps might even show some blue. I think I've actually got a blue pen in here. Some people would even like show some blue here in Yemen as well. Because, I mean, like to the best of my understanding, like Somalis in Yemen are almost considered like as native as some Yemenis. Like I looked into like going to Yemen as a student of knowledge once, going to study Islam there, and they told me like if you're Yemeni or Somali, then you'll be just treated like a local. Like almost as if just Yemeni or Somali, then you're Yemeni. Kind of like you'll fit in perfectly there. Yeah, just as if like they're so close, aren't they? These two, you can see down here there's like 200 miles. Yeah, if that's right. But I mean, they're so close here, and obviously for centuries have had, like cultural interaction and ties with the Yemeni people as well. And so, yeah. So what else is there? Yeah, so like the majority of the cities that you probably have heard of, as I say, like Bosaso is up here somewhere, Hargeisa is here, and then obviously Djibouti is over there. This on this map, it does overlap. Like there is some Somali people in Djibouti, and like I've worked with people from Djibouti who speak fluent Somali, so I'm not sure why on this map it doesn't seem to overlap into Djibouti at all. These highlighted areas as being Somali areas, but it does over here on this big blue blob map. It does overflow into Djibouti. Yeah, so I think those are kind of the main cities that you probably would have heard of, and certainly the only ones that I've mentioned on my channel as well. But other ones that you might have heard of, I mean, you can see Galgudud in there, and yeah, and then down here there's the Jubbada Horse, and there's a river near here. You can see rivers coming in. Like if you often see pictures on Pinterest and stuff like that of like really, really lush green lands in Somalia, and they're quite often down here in the south, because this is where there are these rivers that come in. Yeah, which means that there's green pasture and potentially more agriculture there, and fruit and stuff like that too. So I would like to do a video like that as well. I was recently reading a book. I'll mention the author's name in the actual video when it comes up. But I was recently reading a book where he's an Englishman who travelled to Somalia, and he described Somalia as kind of like a barren desert, and that concerned me a little bit, because I just don't think that's true. Like all the descriptions of Somalia that I've had from my family and people who have travelled to the south as well, and don't reflect that at all. And I think what Somalia is today is often hidden by the Somali people sometimes. I recently watched a video by our sister Nistaha. She has a YouTube channel. She actually said when she started a YouTube channel that she was inspired by me. So that's awesome anyway. But our sister Nistaha Liban, I'll leave a link to her YouTube. She recently did a video about how Somalis often talk about sort of what Somalia used to be, and there's very, very little pride about sort of what Somalia is now. But my wife is certainly very proud of what Somalia as a country looks like what a beautiful country it actually is, and that alhamdulillah, that hasn't been spoilt by the events of recent times. So I'll perhaps make a video on that very soon, about kind of just landscape images and discussing the sort of physical geography of Somalia rather than sort of the human geography that I've discussed in this. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, then please like and share it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.